Ladies and gentlemen, we begin with the national anthem. Please rise from your seats.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
We'll begin proceedings with the lighting of the lamp. I invite the MD and CEO, Manappuram Finance, Mr. VP Nandakumar, to step forward. Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO, BSE. Mr. Kapil Krishan, Group CFO, Manappuram Finance. Dr. Sumita Nandan Jayashankar, Senior Vice President, Manappuram Finance Limited. May I also invite Mr. Pradeep Saxena, Director, Manappuram Finance, and Mrs. Sushma Nandakumar to join the dignitaries in lighting the lamp. And now, the moment we've been waiting for, it is time to ring the closing bell, the symbolic ringing of the closing bell. Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance, will ring the closing bell. I request Senior Executives of Manappuram Finance, Mr. Kapil Krishan and Dr. Sumita Nandan Jayashankar, to be present nearby, along with directors. As we come to 10, I'll begin the countdown. Please join. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you all. Our schedule has been thrown a little out of gear. I'll now begin by inviting the dignitaries onto the stage. But before that, on behalf of Manappuram Finance, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for coming here to be part of an important moment in the history of our company. As you know, we are gathered here to mark a milestone. It is 20 years since the day that the equity shares of Manappuram Finance Limited were first listed on the BSE. Manappuram Finance was incorporated in 1992. And went in for its IPO in 1995. The company's shares were listed on the Cochin and Madras stock exchanges. The feather in the cap was the listing here, the stalwart stock exchange in India, the BSE. In a way, it is fitting that we commemorate the occasion here in the International Convention Center of the BSE. We understand that in the days prior to computerized trading, when trading took place through the open outcry, this very hall used to be the trading floor of the BSE. On this occasion, we are privileged to have two MD and CEOs with us of Manappuram Finance Limited and of BSE, and it is my pleasure to invite them to the dais along with other dignitaries. I request our team to welcome the dignitaries with a bouquet of flowers, as I call them, to the dais. Firstly, I invite the promoter and current MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance Limited, Mr. VP Nandakumar, to come forward and take a seat on the dais. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Nandakumar. May I now request Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of BSE, to come forward and take a seat on the dais. Mr. Kapil Krishan, Group CFO, Manappuram Finance, will now join them on the dais. Finally, Dr. Sumita Nandan Jayashankar, Senior Vice President, Manappuram Finance Limited, will take a seat on the dais. We'll begin proceedings with the keynote address by the person who has been in the driving seat all these years, whose vision has made Manappuram Finance a force to reckon with in the financial sector. May I invite Sri VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO, Manappuram Finance Limited, to address the gathering.
Sri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of BSE, Mr. Kapil Krishan, Dr. Sumita Jayashankar, promoters and distinguished directors of the Board of Manappuram Finance, my senior colleagues on and off the dais, eminent invitees, representatives of the media, and the members of the audience. I am really honored and delighted to be presented with the opportunity to address the distinguished gathering here. I am grateful to the BSE and particularly to its MD and CEO, Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, for joining with us and hosting this event. Let me also take this occasion to thank all our distinguished invitees, representatives of the media, and everyone present here for being part of this important milestone. In keeping with the occasion and the venue, let me also thank the wider community of investors without whose support we would not have been here today. Ladies and gentlemen, since the purpose of this gathering is to mark the 20 years of Manappuram's listing on the BSE, 20 eventful years, if I may add, I would like to talk about those early days in our history, the circumstances in which I first promoted the company, the conditions under which the listing happened, also a bit about gold loans, and how Manappuram has emerged to become a leading player in this space. I came into gold loans because it was my family business, which I took over from my father in 1986 after his demise. Manappuram was then a single branch gold loan outfit in Vellapad, a remote village in Thrissur district in Kerala. My father was a conservative banker who ran his business on a capital of around 5 lakhs. He maintained a self-imposed cap of rupees 25 lakhs on the maximum deposits he could accept from the public. It sounds hard to believe today. But once the cap of this 25 lakhs was reached, the people in the village who wanted to put their deposits with Manappuram were asked to wait until an existing depositor withdrew his money. And such was the reputation he has built, they did agree to it. When I took over, I decided to do away with this artificial cap on deposits. The deposits flowed in, and we started new branches by centers to deploy these extra funds. With the growth in deposits running ahead of the loan book, we took up year panel advertisements in the newspapers to popularize gold loans. Recall that India of late 80s was a time of credit rationing, and banks and financial institutions did not find it necessary to advertise their loan products. They were advertising only liability products. Looking back, I think we were among the earliest, if not the first, to advertise loan products. Ultimately, there were limits how much you can do with gold loans alone in a proprietary concern. And so, in 1992, I promoted Manappuram General Finance and Leasing Limited, which later became Manappuram Finance Limited. Our intention was to enter, which was seen as promising areas of those days like leasing, hire purchase, general finance, etc., as the name sounds, name of the company sounds. Having tasted success with gold loans, my ambitions were sky high. I had grand plans to scale up and expand out from our perch in Thrissur, Kerala. But it was not long before I ran into rough weather. To put my plans into action, I needed to raise money. I went to banks, but the experience was not that happy. Essentially, they brought me back to the earth. Banks were willing to lend to me, no problem, but only to the exact value of my residence, which I had to pledge as security. In their defense, it is likely they saw me as untested and perhaps overambitious. The experience was humbling, and that was how I first began to think of raising money from the stock market. My inspiration was the example of Reliance Industries and Dhirubhai Ambani, a legend even in those days. Manappuram, I decided, would have to list its shares not just at a regional stock exchange in Cochin and Madras, but also at the biggest and most prestigious stock exchange of the country, the BSE. It was, of course, easier said than done. The norms for listing on the BSE appeared to be stringent, especially to a small town outfit like ours. The biggest hurdle was this minimum capital requirement. We had to increase our paid up equity capital from 50 lakhs to 1.25 crores so that we could become eligible for a public issue of 1.75 crores. The first requirement, therefore, before we could even think of knocking on BSE's doors, was to raise this 75 lakhs in Thrissur itself. As it happened, raising the capital turned out to well in the end, easier than I thought. Manappuram was then a name with a history of 4 decades behind it. There was a reservoir of goodwill for Manappuram name in the area that was my father's legacy, and I was able to tap into that. People who had no idea of the workings of stock market, partnered with their hard-earned money to invest in our stock. The hurdle of capital was soon crossed, and that was how, in 1995, we pushed through our IPO and got listed on the BSE. We became the second NBFC from Kerala to be listed on the BSE. Along with capital, we also worked on our governance, on setting up transparent systems and procedures. Our board of directors was revamped with the induction of eminent people. It was headed initially by a former chairman of Nedangadi Bank, Mr. Seshadrinathan, who was followed by another former chairman of the same bank. The then managing director of Manappuram newspaper, Mr. P.V. Chandran, also joined on the board, along with other eminent local businessmen and professionals. Another area of focus was technology, and we were really pioneers in this area. By this time, we approached the BSE. Our MIS was fully computerized. We had 6 branches back then, and operations within the branch were also fully computerized. We put into motion the process of getting ourselves credit rated. When ICRA awarded the credit rating of EMA to our public deposit program in October 1995, just before the listing in November that year, we became the first NBFC in Kerala to be credit rated. Today, in hindsight, I can say listing on the BSE was a great beginning, a stepping stone to greater achievements later on. But it did not happen overnight. For over a decade after listing, we kept a low profile. Along the way, there were some troubles as well. The CRB scam in 1997 was a wake-up call. And news around the NBFCs tightened by the regulator. We were left with a funds crunch, a serious asset liability mismatch. Up until this point of time, Manappuram Finance, the listed company, had kept away from gold loans. The business was carried on as before in a proprietary concern, this business, this gold loan. In this moment of crisis, we decided that this listed company too also should get into gold loans. And so, Manappuram Finance Limited became the first corporate entity in the country to get into gold loans. That was a game changer for the industry. We introduced scale, technology, and innovation to an activity that was wholly the preserve of pawnbrokers and money lenders till then. In technology, we were among the earliest to adopt core banking platform. Unlike banking sector, there were no ready-made software solutions for gold loans. We developed our own software. In the matter of product innovations too, Manappuram led the way. Gold loans were for long sold as one-size-fits-all product. The company was a pioneer in introducing variety to it by offering progressively higher loan amounts at higher price points. We were also the first to come up with one-day interest schemes, one-day interest, where borrowers could settle a gold loan even within one day, paying a day's interest, at a time when the industry known was to recover minimum interest for 15 days or even for 1 month. Since the banks were not comfortable with the NBFCs, we had to devise unconventional ways to raise funds. Thanks to ICICI Bank, Manappuram became the first gold loan company to raise finance through securitization and assignment route. This was in 2005. In December 2007, Manappuram became the first NBFC in Kerala to attract foreign institutional investment. When the celebrated PE fund Sequoia Capital invested 70 crores rupees together with Hudson Equity Holdings. When they became convinced about gold loan story, there was only one listed company in this space, and they did not look anywhere. Once the private equity came in, even the PSU banks were willing to lend us, and we could shift gears and grow much faster than before. Looking back, I can say with some pride that in a short span of a decade plus, we were able to transform the face of gold loans. Otherwise, a very tradition-bound business. No doubt, the fact that gold prices went on an unprecedented bull run for over a decade, beginning from 2002, was a heaven-sent opportunity. But the larger point I would like to convey is that Manappuram's story is more than being at the right place at the right time. We held the right tools too. The early listing on the BSE was a major element of this story. It proved its worth when private equity investment flowed into the country and altered the trajectory of its growth. This is how 6 branches with an asset under management of just 3 million rupees in 1995, a very humble beginning, has today become 3,500 branches across the country with an AUM of over 10,000 crores and ranked among the top 20 non-banking finance companies in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, I have talked at length about gold loans because that was our exclusive business until recently. However, going forward, our intention is to become a more diversified non-banking finance company. An increasing share of future business will come from areas like microfinance, commercial vehicle, value housing finance, SME funding, etc. A promising start has already been made, and today these new businesses contribute 7% of our total business within 1 year of its initiation. Over the next 3 years, it should go up to 25%. As we acquired the microfinance company, Ashirwad Microfinance, in February this year, it had a portfolio of less than 300 crores. Today, in the space of a little over 6 months, its business has grown to over 500 crores. And so, if the last two decades were about gold loans, the vision for the next decade sees Manappuram rooted in gold loans, but with a much broader horizon. Giving shape to this vision is a task we have taken up in the earnest. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Having heard the history of those early days, we now have Mr. Kapil Krishan, Group CFO, to present the numbers behind the story. Mr. Kapil Krishan.
Dear friends, thanks a lot for coming for this event. Mr. Nandkumar has already mentioned a lot of the facts, but a few of the points have already been made. I just will take you through the journey, maybe in a PowerPoint format, because Mr. Nandkumar has explained it in his own words already. Basically, the company was incorporated in 1992. And initially, the focus was auto finance and two-wheelers. And at that time itself, there was a vision that within 3 years, it should list. So based on that vision, in 1995, the company listed with an IPO of 1.75 crores on the BSE. It immediately got a credit rating as well. It was the first Kerala-based NBFC to get a credit rating of MA in 1995 itself. And another fact which is not very well known is that the company has been paying dividend every year from 1994 itself, which is a very long record of 21 years of dividend. After a few years, Mr. Nandkumar decided to specialize in the niche business of gold loan. And Manappuram became the first gold loan lending business in an NBFC format. As you know, gold loans have traditionally been an unorganized sector business. So Manappuram has been the pioneer in doing gold loans in a corporate entity. And at that time, it was not easy to get funding for a new entity. As we know, banks have their own time, take their own time to give funding. And it took another 6 years in 2005 when we got the first line of credit from a bank. 25 crores came from ICICI Bank. And of course, today our total borrowings are almost 8,000 crores. So it started with this 25 crore limit from ICICI Bank, which fueled the growth of this niche business. The next year in 2006, Fullerton came up with a 500 crore limit. And that is when the growth story started. The next year in 2007, the company raised 70 crore of private equity from Sequoia and from Hudson. So this was at a price of, at that time, 130 rupees, which after split and bonus, actually it comes to 6.5 rupees. In the following year, in 2008, there was a second round, again of 70 crores, where new investors also came in. Granite Hill was one of them. This private equity infusion and the introduction of borrowing from the organized sector is what really started the growth story for this company. And the AUM between 2008 and 2010 tripled from 800 crores to the AUM actually tripled, and the net worth also grew 5x. This was a time when this stock was one of the best performing stocks on the Bombay Stock Exchange over a 10-year period. The branch count also doubled from 436 to 1005. In 2010, on the back of this growth story, the company did foreign equity fundraising as well. There were 2 rounds totaling about 1,200 crores, where we did a private placement and a QIP as well. This was the time when our number of customers crossed the 10 lakh customers. And at the same time, the global gold price was actually going up very rapidly. And the country was also importing a lot of gold, which got the RBI worried about the rapid growth of gold loan companies. And they started a phase which would have lasted around 2 to 3 years of trying to slow down the pace of this industry. They started by removing the priority sector lending status to gold loan companies. So when gold loan companies were not allowed to securitize their loan to banks, to let banks meet their priority sector lending. Thereafter, in 2012, the RBI put a cap on the LTV as well. But our AUM was still growing because the uniqueness of gold in India is that though the international price was falling, the rupee price was still going up. In April 2013, the rupee price peaked at around 33,000 rupees per gram. And in that same year, the RBI actually settled down on their regulatory steps, and they increased the LTV, in fact, to 75%. So there was this 2 year from 2012 to 14 of consolidation in our business. And that actually helped us come out stronger. In 2014, we started reaching out to customers. As you know, earlier the gold loan business, when the gold price was going up, customers would just come on their own. There was no need to do too much of reaching out effort. In January, we started reaching out to customers. We also did 4 successful public NCD issues in 2014. In June 2014, we did again a great pioneering step of introducing shorter tenure loan products. Traditionally, gold loan products were for 1 year period, and there was a higher risk of the loan going out of money. So we introduced shorter tenure loans of 3 to 9 months as well, which has today helped us de-link from the gold price. We also diversified into some other new areas of business, such as home finance, commercial vehicle, and we also acquired a microfinance business. Our AUM came back to 10,000 crores. And we also have now started online gold loans. Now, we just reported our results. 7% of our turnover, of our book size, is from the new businesses. And our vision going forward is that 2020 vision, that our AUM will cross the 20,000 crore mark. The CAGR is again very impressive. Over the last 20 years, we had 68% CAGR over a 20-year period in our AUM, which I'm sure you'll agree is a very strong figure. The profit after tax had a CAGR of 49%, which is again a very impressive figure. We have 18 lakh customers, 57 tons of gold, 3,300 branches. Coming to the stock price actually, our shareholder wealth since listing has gone up 65 times, 65x, at a CAGR of 24.6%. Just to put it in perspective, this is, the Sensex had a CAGR of 11%. And this is at today's price. On the peak, as you can see, our price was actually almost 3 times higher. So this at one point of time, our return was much more than this. We have been dividend paying all through. Even today, we quote at a very attractive dividend yield of 7.5%. Our peak valuation had touched $1.56 billion, which was 7,100 crores. Going forward, our strategy is to leverage on our core gold strength in the gold loan business and add synergistic new business segments to leverage on our large customer base. The return on equity we expect to reach around 15% in the next 3 years. We have already de-linked from the gold price, and our capital adequacy continues to be very strong. So these were just a few financial highlights that I wanted to just bring to your focus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO, BSE, to address the gathering.
Mr. Nandakumar, Mr. Kapil, Dr. Jayashankar, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am extremely pleased to be here today at this momentous celebratory day, and my heartiest congratulations to Sri VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance Limited. It's indeed a moment of commemoration for all of us present here as Manappuram Finance completes its 20th year of listing with BSE today. It is the same precise day when the opening bell ceremony of Manappuram had taken place 2 decades ago. We are honored to have the team of Manappuram here and congratulate each one of the members who have made this possible for the company. Manappuram's origins go back to 1999 when it was founded in Valapad, which is a coastal village in Kerala, by the late Sri V.C. Padmanabhan, father of Sri Nandakumar. Its activity was mainly pawnbroking and money lending carried out on a modest scale. The principal asset of the company was the integrity and foresight of its founder, and among the people of the area, it soon acquired a reputation as a safe haven for their investments. It has now become a giant with rupees 10,000 crore plus AUM. In business, you have to be lucky, but more than luck, you also have to have hard work, planning and execution. And Manappuram has shown amply that hard work, execution and planning pays off very well. 24.6% CAGR is one of the best CAGRs BSE has witnessed in last 2 decades. BSE has this year completed 140 years of excellence and a successful sojourn. BSE is oftentimes referred to as Asia's first exchange, and it has become the fastest exchange in the world with speed of 6 microseconds. In 1 second, there are 10 lakh microseconds. BSE adheres to the highest standards of transparency and corporate governance set up by the regulators and government. BSE is the world's largest stock exchange in terms of number of listed companies. The market capitalization of the BSE now stands close to rupees 100 lakh crore. In last few years, BSE has launched a number of market-leading practices such as derivatives, SME, institutional trading, interest rate futures, currency futures, and so on and so forth. Earlier last year in February, BSE also launched institutional trading platform in BSE SME segment. Having said that, I congratulate Manappuram Finance and Mr. Nandakumar and the entire team, and once again look forward to years of collaboration with them. I hope they continue to provide the same CAGR to investors for next 2 decades also. Thank you very much for coming to this.
We missed out one item on the agenda, and that was the exchange of mementos. Yeah. May I first, yes, we'll have the exchange of the mementos. May I first have Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO, Manappuram Finance Limited, to present a memento on this occasion to Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of BSE. And now, Mr. Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO BSE, will present a memento to Manappuram Finance Limited, and that will be received on behalf of the company by Mr. VP Nandakumar. Yes, thank you very much. And now, before we draw the curtains, Dr. Sumita Nandan Jayashankar to propose the vote of thanks.
Honorable Chief Guest of the Day, Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of BSE, Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance Limited, Mr. Kapil Krishnan, Group CFO, Manappuram Finance Limited, Distinguished Director of Manappuram Finance Limited, Mr. Pradeep Saxena, eminent invitees, representatives of the media, my senior colleagues, and staff of BSE, and ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure and privilege today to extend a vote of thanks on behalf of Manappuram Finance Limited to this very distinguished gathering for having graced this occasion with your presence. At the outset, I must record our deepest gratitude, Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, MD and CEO of BSE, our guest of honor. It was very good of you, sir, to take your time off your hectic schedule and be with us today. And thank you, sir, for eloquently putting in context BSE's pivotal role in driving India's business and industry. I'm grateful to Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance Limited, who actually set the ball rolling way back in 1992 when he promoted what was then known as Manappuram General Finance and Leasing Limited. Shortly afterwards, in 1995, he piloted the listing of the company on the BSE, and since then has transformed it into one of India's leading NBFCs. I would like to express my thanks to Mr. Kapil Krishnan, Group CFO, Manappuram Finance Limited, for neatly summarizing the Manappuram story over the last 20 years and importantly, backing with good numbers. Before I came into business, I was led to believe a picture is worth 1,000 words. In the world of business or in the world of finance, I realize now a picture or 1,000 words is only meaningful unless you back it with good numbers. Now, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to our director, Mr. Pradeep Saxena, who took the trouble of coming here and being with us. My sincere thanks to all the distinguished investors, bankers, and all the other important invitees in the audience. It was wonderful having you with us, and I hope to see you again, at least in another 5 years when we celebrate our Silver Jubilee. I'm especially grateful to the members of the print and the digital media who have come in strength to cover this event. The staff of BSE has been very cooperative throughout, and my special thanks to them as well. Finally, a word about the efforts put in by Team Perfect Relations Private Limited, our PR partner. Thank you for a job well done. Ladies and gentlemen, that's for today, and thank you all. Thank you very much. I also invite you to join us for a high tea. Thank you.